yes, mateys, it's another Halloween special.
That's right. And as you can see, I love this time of year. This is my favorite episode to do. How about you?
Yeah, it's like Christmas, New Year's and your birthday all wrapped into one day.
That's for sure. That's for sure. And as you can tell, we've come out to the old graveyard here to shoot our once-a-year Halloween episode. And this is a really special night because we got some really spectacular books to show you. And again, as in every other Halloween year, these are mostly going to be scary type of gothic horror type books, stuff that we don't really get to show a lot. And we hope you are going to enjoy this episode as much as we do because we love shooting it.
Strap yourselves in. It's going to be a scary night. Yes, yes.
So what do you got? You got a lot of books to show tonight, or?
I've got a few segments, and I think we should probably start out with our kind of usual new book segment. How's that?
That's I think I just bought one last week, and you've got a few. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. And again, sorry guys, as usual, as has been sort of par for the course lately, Mike is not here tonight because, well, he's working some strange shifts, so... hopefully it'll get back to normal soon and Mike will be with us because we love his input, we love his books, and hopefully very soon we're going to get back to normal. But without any more wasting time, let's get started. Okay, so this first segment, this is my new book segment, the very first book of the evening. This is a book I just picked up recently at Gotham Central Comics on Dixie there in Mississauga. And the nice thing about Gotham Central is a lot of nice indie titles, and among the indie titles you'll always find a couple horror type titles, and this is one I found really interesting. Obviously it's called Hatchet Halloween Tales. It's basically short stories on Victor Crowley. Now if any of you are familiar with Hatchet, it's a TV series, a series of films, so this is a comic book based on that character. So Victor Crowley is kind of a weird old psycho dude along the lines of like a Michael Myers or a Jason Voorhees who lives out in the Louisiana bayou, and anybody gets close to his property or surrounding area, he acts and slashes to pieces. So it's kind of interesting. It's a bunch of short stories, 3 in total in this book, and yeah, I liked it very much. What I found the artwork was kind of cool. The first 2 stories, I thought the artwork was great. The third one, not so much, but just one of those recent type horror books that I picked up that I really enjoyed. So it's by an independent publisher called, oh my God, I keep forgetting it. Oh my God. I'm just not...
American Mythology.
American Mythology. So a publisher that we don't show a lot of, and yeah. Worth picking up, at least I think so anyways. Okay, next up we got Jose's new book segment. Now unlike me, I only showed one book. Jose's got, what do you got, 4 or 5 here to show you?
Yeah, I like something like that. So I would like to start this Halloween episode by talking about Artgerm and Vampirella.
Go wrong there.
Yeah, why? Well, because Artgerm, he's arguably one of the best cover artists out there working right now. And Vampirella, well, she's hit her middle age. In 2019, she just turned 50 years old. Her debut was back in '69. The original bad girl from horror comics. And I thought I'd, do a 2-in-1 Artgerm Vampirella kind of thing. And, well, what can I say? Those Dynamite people, man, they sure know how to milk a cow, don't they? Now, I personally try not to support the kind of behavior that has you buying multiple covers of one issue, but apparently Vampirella and New Artgerm is the kind of combo I just can't say no to.
That's for sure.
Yeah, how many variations of the same cover do I need? Well, if it's as good as the cover for this issue number 2 right here, well, I guess as many as I can get my hands on. But as a temporary madness abated, I let myself get just one, issue 2, Vampirella. I got the 1 in 50 noir virgin cover you're seeing here right now. The one where you pay your retailer more to have a more exclusive version. Now, I guess, which brings us to cover issue number 6. This is the one where they really got me. Now, in this case, I picked up first the blue foil edition, CGC 9.8 fair market value, $100 US.
Wow.
Next up, I picked up the Lao Ghost variant, CGC 9.8 fair market value, also $100.
You paid $100 for that?
No, this is what's fair market value.
Wow.
Okay, next up, This is the Lao Virgin variant, CGC 9.8 fair market value on that one is $110 US. And finally, the last one brings us to the regular cover, CGC 9.8 fair market value, $48 US. And hopefully that will be all. I guess, but the message I'm sending to Dynamite is clear, and I'm not proud of it. They know that if they keep putting out Artgerm covers, I and thousands of others will just keep buying them. Now, is that a responsible way to buy comics? Probably not, but it is at least a comic written by Christopher Priest, so I guess the quality will be there. Am I going too far? Did you guys fall into Dynamite's Artgerm trap? I guess at this point, I just have to remind myself that there is a widely acknowledged and growing fatigue swirling around modern variants.
Yeah.
Increasingly viewed as manufactured collectibles, I think the vast majority of modern variants attract little to no premium from collectors within a month or two of their initial release.
Yeah.
Having said that, of course, there are always exceptions to the rule, but those exceptions are becoming fewer and farther between these days, as even once rock-solid markets like, for example, J. Scott Campbell variants are just sagging. Again, not proud to admit it, but it's such a great Artgerm cover, I could not resist getting 4 copies.
Well, I liked it too, but again, unlike Jose, I just went for the standard one there, the blood soap cover, which I thought was absolutely spectacular. So that was the one for me.
Yeah, I just think they muddy up the image. It's more than an arm's length away. But they put too much blood on that one. I particularly like the Ghost variant kind of one, where it's kind of cool. You see the Vampirella logo, but it's kind of like, see-through.
Great.
But good stuff.
Good start, Jose. Fantastic start.
Yeah, now that we've dispensed with the new books, let's get some nice vintage books.
A nice 20-cent extravaganza. Is that what we're doing here?
Yeah, some Bronze Age goodness.
Nice.
Yeah, Marvel really had some really great Bronze Age horror titles in the early mid-1970s. Now, many of the titles were reprints from the earlier days of Marvel or repurposed titles from the pre-code days. Those kind of books, they pretty much get ignored in the marketplace. However, with a new focus on Marvel monsters and horrors for a possible upcoming TV show, it might be the time to take a long look at one of those kind of cool covers. And because I'm me, we're going to feature also a couple of minor key issues. Now, generally, I will say that 2 of these 3 books can be had cheaply, but they are somewhat difficult to find in decent shape. The 3rd book, it's pop because of a TV show that's dropping here in the fall. Now, these books can be had for about 20 to 25 bucks in the mid-grades. Higher grades, of course, will, like always, cost you more moolah. So, without further ado, let's tackle the first book here. We're going to be featuring Werewolf by Night, issue number 13 from January 1974. This is a minor key, and it's a first appearance of Topaz. Now, you might say, Topaz who? Well, for those not in the know, Topaz is a powerful witch with empathic abilities. Yeah, and she was created by the team of writer Marv Wolfman. Ha! You cannot get a better writer. Marv Wolfman writing for Werewolf by Night. And, of course, artist Mike Ploog. You'll see his signature in the bottom left corner. Now, Topaz's origins are unknown to her and to others, but she has mainly adopted 2 forms of a woman. One, blonde Caucasian, like you see her on the cover there, and the other one, a Native American young girl. In her youth, she was found and followed the sorcerer Taboo, who was at the time living in a Native American prison camp. Now, later in her life, Taboo compelled her to control the werewolf known as Jack Russell, but her refusal to kill Jack ended up causing Taboo to abandon her. Topaz and Jack ended up becoming romantically involved, and Topaz also helped Jack to control his powers, learn about his lost family, and she even helped him in fighting the Prince of Darkness, Dracula. From 1974 to 78, she appeared as a supporting character and love interest in Werewolf by Night, appearing in issues 13 to 17 and 27 to 43. From 76 to 91, she became a recurring supporting character for none other than Doctor Strange. In 2004, the writer Brian Patrick Walsh chose 3 witches, Jennifer Kale, Satana Hellstrom, and Topaz as the 3 main characters of the miniseries Witches. Now, this is a very respectable, good-looking, mid-grade fine copy, about a 6.0. Yeah, it's a minor key issue. I think the bonus here is that I received a 30% discount when I picked it up at Pendragon's moving sale back in January of this year. Now, for this book, the latest 50th Overstreet price breaks show $9, $18, $28, and $38 US as the 6, 8, 9, and 9.2 grade splits.
So you can still pick it up at a decent price. It's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, are you?
No, it shouldn't. When people start, focusing on the Moon Knight issues 32 and 33 for first and second appearance, and outside of the number one issue, this is a good minor key to pick up.
Nice. Certainly is. Certainly is. Okay, what we got underneath there, Jose?
Okay, here's one of those books that I was talking about. This is Uncanny Tales, issue number 2, volume number 2, from February of 1974.
Nice.
Uncanny Tales, Volume 2, of course, was a 12-issue anthology title. It was a sci-fi and horror title, cover dated between December of 1973 to October of 75, and it consisted entirely of reprints for both the 1950s Uncanny Tales and several other Atlas and Marvel titles. Now, there's excellent layout and framing on this swamp creature cover by Golden Age legend Carl Burgos with John Romita Sr. alterations. There's great use of darks and inks and a wonderful depth to this cover. I love best the mist on the water on this cover. This was, of course, alas, not a super cheap copy, as I snagged about a VF- 7.5 looking copy, which is a solid grade for this dark cover. Again, I picked it up from the Big P there. I also received a 30% discount, which helped a lot bringing the price in line for grade. I guess at the final analysis, perhaps it's not the most original cover for this Halloween episode, but the overall pieces make for a great haul. Again, 50 bucks Canadian, less 30%. I paid $35 Canadian, or roughly $24 US. The latest 50th Overstreet price breaks show $12, $25, $40, and $55 US as the 6, 8, 9, and 9.2 grade splits for this book.
Yeah, that's a really nice high grade too. Look at how white the.
Yeah.
It looks really good, and again, not going to cost you much.
No.
Cost you much.
Oh, the last book in this flight is a book that should come as no surprise to a lot of Bronze Age collectors. This is none other than Marvel Spotlight, issue number 12, appropriately enough from October of 1973. Now, this well-known book is probably in most Bronze Age collections out there, as this issue, of course, happens to be the second full appearance of none other than the Son of Satan himself. And again, more importantly, it contains his ominous origin story, as you can see from the cover. In continuity, this issue is continued from Ghost Rider issue number 2, which contains his first full appearance. Now, this comic book was written by the team of Gary Friedrich, with Herb Trimpe art leading the way, and none other than Marie Severin's bright red colors just dominating with a kind of disco vibe. Now, who knows how closely the Hulu series that's dropping this fall may follow the origin, but this book is worth a gander, as this is the issue that Damon Hellstrom comes to be known by his more popular moniker, the Son of Satan. Now, this is also, of course, where he is first seen in his chariot and with his trident. Now, at this point, now is a good time as any to point out that trying to make sense of all the retcons and changes of the character over Marvel's history is a surefire way to give yourself an aneurysm. So, kids, don't do it. Yeah. Now, this book is super boom or bust on the grade since the series was announced about a year ago. CGC 9.8 copies sold for a whopping $4K US back in August of 2019, just a little over a year ago.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, speculators have been selling into the market. The prices dropped a bit for 9/8 to around $3,500 US on average. In that time, 9/6s are only about 20% of that, averaging roughly $675 US. Raw copies can move pretty cheaply, but they are mostly mid-grades at best, like my copy here, but a fine plus. So my advice to this, unless your copy is really, really clean and sharp. Don't bother submitting to CGC. Now, you'd have a better chance of moving a high-grade raw copy that someone else might want to take a gamble on, a clean and press, than you would moving a CGC 9.0 or 9.2 graded copy, in my opinion. Having said that, this key is still really cheap, as slabbed 8.0 and 7.0 copies are both selling for just under $100 US. Now, this lack of stratification tells me that the book has not found its resting price point quite yet. Now, anytime you can buy a Bronze Age key in a grade 8.0 for under $100 US, I would generally say you should probably do so. However, in the final analysis, if I had a high-grade copy, raw or slab, I would sell it before the show's debut this fall if you want to maximize your return on profit here. Now, this is a book I picked up at the last con I participated this year. That was the February Toronto Comic Book Show show con. And I really bargained hard to get it down to $80 Canadian, which at the time was roughly $55 US. Now, the 50th latest Overstreet price breaks are not going to really show the pop that this book has had, as they show only 18, 38, 69, and $100 US as the 6, 8, 9, and 9.2 grade splits. This book has popped. Obviously, Ghost Rider 2, the first full appearance, has really popped. 9/8s are selling for well over $1,000 sometimes. And even the Son of Sam #1 from his short-lived series, which was a $5, $10 book forever. I opened up the latest guide at a 9.2. That's a $60 US book right now. So again, we will see how these things shake out, as they usually do. Even if the show is a success, if you're going to make your money, you do it before the show drops.
Yeah, that's for sure. And it's funny you should mention that the last comic convention we went to was TCBS in last February, and we've gone almost the entire year without going to a proper convention.
And we won't probably until sometime in 2021, it looks like.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that this weekend is usually when the Hamilton Comic Con is HammerCon, which is a very large convention, and unfortunately, like the rest of the conventions this year, this was canceled as well. But yeah, so hopefully, pretty scary time, that's for sure.
Yeah, batten down the hatches and just, stay safe out there. Stay within your kind of like close group, and obviously try not to go to places where there's lots of people.
For sure.
Yeah, just stay safe.
Great little run, Jose. Fantastic books.
Love Bronze Age 20-cent marvels.
Okay, so this next book is mine, Ghost number 100. Now, when I first started collecting books, again, it was the very early 80s, very late 70s, very early 80s. This is the first Ghost book I ever bought. And I bought it down the street at one of our local haunts, which was at the time Tompkin Variety.
Oh, I remember Tompkin Variety.
Back in the day when most people used to buy their comic books at variety stores, Max Milk, Becker's, and whatever.
Yeah, from the spinner racks. You know it.
Exactly. So that's where I first discovered this book. 100th issue at the time. Came out May 1981. Cool little book. And again, a mixture of stories. There's like 4 stories in all. Not an expensive book. Even in high grade, this one is still only going to run you about $10 again. So Ghost, as usual, never really got the respect it deserves. A 40-year-old book, and it's still only like $10. And that, when I say high grade, that's the price on the comic book realm in a 9.4. So,
well, what can I say? They just don't get the respect and the market love. You got 2 kinds of collectors who are going to be after this book. There's centenary collectors who collect like big anniversary issues, the first issue, but also, issues like 50, 100. 100th is a big one. I mean, these days, publishers and editors seem to, they're quick on the draw as far as pressing the rewind button, and they don't allow titles to gestate and find their track, so to speak. And so you have those, and it's also an infinity cover because if you'll notice, it's got the magazine, and it's like in that sense. So you have centenary collectors, you have infinity cover collectors. Those are two smaller sub niches of collecting here. It's a good, really cool book. It's a nice add to your collection. And you're right, Ghost and I would say Witching Hour are the two titles from DC that don't get the respect and market love that the two big titles like House of Mystery and House of Secrets. They don't get the love, but they should, because they're good anthology titles with quality covers and good stories, so you should check it out.
That's for sure. And this was also getting very near the end, because Ghost ended at 112. That was the final episode. That was the final issue in the run before they finally ended the comic book. And again, like Jose said, it's a nice infinity cover. Richard Buckler and Steve Mitchell, two artists we don't really mention that often, but I think they did a fantastic job. And I love the blue and the way the arm is just kind of coming out. It's just kind of cool. Yeah,
they're really channeling their inner Neil Adams on this cover.
That much is certain.
All right, next up we have two books here. First up we have Chamber of Darkness, issue number 7.
Nice.
From October 1970. Now, this issue features the first comic book cover drawn by one of the true masters of all things spooky, macabre, and horrific, of none other, the late, great Bernie Wrightson.
Nice.
Yeah, he just seemed destined to draw frightful things, being born just 4 days before Halloween on October 27th, 1948. He left us way, way too early in 2017 at the still young age of 69. The late Mr. Wrightson did leave us, of course, quite the legacy. He was one of the greats, a giant of the Bronze Age, and co-creator of Swamp Thing. His covers are celebrated, revered, and highly collected. There are literally too many favorites to choose from. Great artists earn themselves large fan bases, and to these fans, items like an artist's first comic book cover matter, and they do become collectible. Now, Bernie Wrightson's first comic book work, art for a 9-page backup story, can be found in House of Mystery issue 179. A good book to pick up on its own right. Now, onto the cover here, Chamber of Darkness number 7. We see right away those distinct lines and that distinct drawing style that would have make him one of the greats. I guess the play here personally is to maximize return on investment and try to snag a nice, tight, crisp copy with high gloss and a good register. Go after a CGC 9.6 white pager if you can. I like this very meaningful cover, so if you do go for that 9.6, try to keep it at around $125 US or below. But also keep your eye out for really nice ungraded VF 8.0 raw copies for about $25 to $30 US. Now, the latter is probably almost impossible. I've noticed that raw books of this type tend to be priced way above what they ought to sell for, I think preying on people's overestimation of their ability to assess grade. I think, honestly speaking, this is not too much of a long-term investment, but it is a cool book that should retain value relative to most other books because of its significance. The 50th Overstreet price breaks for this book are $15, $35, $63, and $90 US in the 6, 8, 9, and 9.2 grade splits. Picked up for $35 from Pendragon. I mean, that's roughly about $24-25 for a mid-grade copy. It's a nice pickup to have.
Nothing wrong with that.
And the second book we'll be featuring here is a book that's common to both of us, I think. So flipping the book here, second book on this segment is none other, of course, than Chamber of Darkness, issue number 8 from December of 1970.
Nice, very nice, Jose. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a book, if I remember correctly, you picked up from Tyler from the Batcave when we did that tailgate.
When Tyler came by, and Tyler runs a really fantastic booth at every Toronto comic book show, Batcave Collectibles. He's always got some really, really spectacular stuff.
Yeah.
And I picked a very high-grade copy of this one. Unfortunately, it's stuck in one of my boxes, and I can't remember which box I put it in, so I'm not going to be able to show mine. But Jose's got a really nice copy here.
Mine's a mid-grade copy, again, about a 6.0 copy. What I should say is, of course, not needless to say, number 7 is his first cover. Would be his second cover. And personally speaking, this is just my personal opinion, I think aesthetically speaking, this is the better cover. I just love the man beast with the fur vest there. Looks like a reject from the island of Dr. Moreau. And you almost miss the Frankenstein dude on the far right there because of his dark gray-green kind of... I mean, what I'm trying to say is these are two really good covers, but out of the two, if I'm being completely honest, I prefer this one. Now, it's interesting that recently, and as recently as 3, 4, 5 years ago, Heritage sold the original cover art from Bernie Wrightson, one of their auctions for both of these books in the same auction. I don't know what they made, but my guesstimate is probably high 4 figures to low 5 figures. 7 to 10, 10 to 12,000.
I could help.
And it's just, I mean, whoever picked up those books is a great investment. Whoever picked up the number 7, I mean, to have Bernie Wrightson's first cover is a coup, man. So I mean, as an original art collector, whoever picked up that book is probably sitting pretty, in the sense it's probably appreciated to the extent where you could probably almost double your price when you pick that up. Now, for the 50th over 3 price breaks for the number 8 issue, they're much more modest. They are $12, $25, $40, and $55 US in the 6, 8, 9, and 9.2 grade splits.
And not going to cost you a severed arm or a severed leg, is it?
No, it won't.
Great books, Jose. Those are a fantastic little 15-cent run you just showed us there. Fantastic. Okay, so now we are going into the final segment of the night, and this is a very special segment, and I know you're all going to really enjoy this because these are big boy books. Horror keys, and Jose, you've brought in some really spectacular books tonight, and this is, I think I've been looking forward to this segment all night long.
Yeah, these are special books, First, we'll start off with Witching Hour number 1. From March of 1969. First appearance of Mordred, Mildred, and Cynthia. I'm glad you brought that Ghost 100th issue, because I mean, I really meant that when I said that Ghost and Witching Hour really don't get the market love and respect that the House of Secrets and House of Mystery do. Now, like, both those titles are Golden Age titles, and Witching Hour and Ghost are kind of like Silver Age, Bronze Age titles, but nevertheless, they don't get the market love. So, for those wanting to know, another popular horror series, of course, was The Witching Hour, which ran for a very respectable 85 issues from 1969 to 1978.
Nothing wrong with that.
This series, of course, was hosted by 3 witches. The 2 old hags, Mordred and Mildred, and the cute young blonde witch, Cynthia, which I guess was DC's answers to Sabrina the Witch. Now, of course, this series featured some pretty sweet Nick Cardy, Alex Toth, and Neil Adams covers for a good part of the run. Just gorgeous stuff. Now, I'm old enough to still miss the days when a cover told a story. I love a good pin-up cover, don't get me wrong, but really, this is the stuff that really scratches me where I itch. This was another anthology series that delved into the spooky and the supernatural. The series would suddenly combine with the unexpected title as part of DC's implosion back in 1978. Now, the unexpected absorbed some of the other DC horror titles of the time, including House of Secrets, The Witching Hour, which I just mentioned, and Doorway to Nightmare into its pages. Now, the witches were later revived as key characters in Neil Gaiman's The Sandman series. Now, the market has plenty of copies of this issue to go around. That said, generally speaking, Most are raw, mid-grade copies, and they go for around $100 US for the #1 issue. Now, not a whole lot of volumes moving, but the issue has been on a steady rise over the last few years. Now, if you aren't really too particular or picky on grade, you can probably sneak a cheap, low-grade 3.5.4.0 copy like I did for like $30 to $40 US. I paid $50 Canadian, which is about $35 US for my copy. I think it's a VG minus 3.5 copy. The latest 50th Overstreet price breaks for this book show $30, $45, $103, $227, and $350 US in the 4, 6, 8, 9, and 9.2 grade splits.
That's fantastic, Jose. And again, The Witching Hour is definitely a #1 issue that I want to pick up for myself at some point when I can get one at a decent price.
Yeah, like I said, you can get ones for $30, $40 for low grade 4.0, or around $100 US for about a 6.0 copy these days.
Maybe we'll check out, see what Tyler has the next time we check out his booth. Maybe he'll have something for us at the Batcave.
Yeah, there's some amazing covers in this run and a great stories anthology series.
Yeah, maybe even Sandy at Retro Rare. I don't know what he's like. Does he have you ever asked if he has any of these Witching Hour books?
They come in, like I said, again, it's a title you should be able to find. The print runs were pretty high, but like I said, most copies will be low to mid-grade copies on this one.
Okay, so let's see what we got underneath here. Oh, nice.
Yeah, so here we're moving up a step. So, okay, at this point in this episode, quick history lesson here. DC had a really good thing going on for a while with their top two horror titles, House of Mystery and House of Secrets, selling very well, thank you very much. But the powers that be at DC chickened out when the government investigated comics in the mid-1950s for the perversion of American youth. So, once the anti-horror backlash began, DC switched, unsurprisingly, the focus of their top two horror titles to science fiction and fantasy. They had The Martian Manhunter headline The House of Mystery, while Eclipso? Yes, Eclipso. He was introduced to take over the House of Secrets. Yeah, DC really came up small with that call, caving into the pressure. But that said, in the late 1960s, horror started to make a comeback. Both House of Mystery and House of Secret titles shifted back to their horror roots and gave us more classic tales to fright. Which brings up to this issue here, House of Mystery issue number 175 from August of 1968. Now, this is the second issue of the switch back to the mystery horror format, but more importantly, it is the first appearance of Kane, the host of House of Mystery. Nice. Now, much like his biblically named brother, Kane is the main storyteller and caretaker of the House of Mystery, the Broad House, which is the neighboring house to Abel's House of Secrets, the Tall House. Kane is the antithesis of Abel, his foil in a brilliantly juxtaposed relationship between the two characters. Kane is the tormentor of his brother Abel. Now, much like Abel, he has been a mainstay of DC horror for 50 years, popping up in Swamp Thing, Hellblazer, and Sandman, along with his brother. The duo of Kane and Abel were more thoroughly, of course, explored by Neil Gaiman in the Sandman series, where they were no longer just story hosts, but in fact participating characters in the story plot and granted an invitation to live in the dream realm. Here we have a wicked, fabulously rendered cover by none other than Neil Adams, as well as the first appearance of a 5 decades old character who has been consistently used. Now, as such, you'd think this would be a pretty pricey book, but alas, it isn't.
No.
Yeah, a couple of crisp $20 bills can get you a pretty sweet copy. I just got my mid-grade 6.0 copy recently for around that. Paid $40 Canadian, which is, significantly less in American dollars, under 30 bucks. Yeah, the latest 50th Overstreet price grades for this book show $42, $96, $211 and $325 US as the 6, 8, 9, and 9.2 price breaks for this book.
It's amazing that the prices aren't higher. I'm actually quite surprised by those prices, Jose.
Yes, I am. Again, in high grades, this is a book to get. But this brings us, of course, to the very last book of House of Mystery. Here we have House of Secrets, issue number 81 from September of 1969. This is the first issue that the mystery format begins again in House of Secrets, but again, more importantly, this is the very first appearance of Abel.
Nice.
Now, many important DC horror characters were introduced in the Bronze Age, continued into the Copper Age, and are still being used in the modern age. They are the mainstays of the storytelling, which should be of paramount importance, right? Yeah. Their first appearances are largely ignored in secondary marketplace. Now, big characters like Swamp Thing, Satana, Sandman, Lucifer, Constantine, and others, even Etrick and the Demon, are largely collected, and their first appearances can be quite pricey, especially the high grades. But what about their B-level compatriots? Why don't they get the market love? Now, the principal storytelling vehicle, as well as the caretaker of the House of Secrets, Abel, would continue to be used quite heavily in a variety of Bronze Age titles, namely Plop, alongside Cain and Eve, as well as a recurring character in Swamp Thing, Hellblazer, and especially in Sandman during the 1980s and the 1990s. There he is, right on the cover of this issue number 81. Cain plays tricks on Abel, ridicules him, and figures out a way to harm or kill him in virtually every meeting between the two. Now, it's quite an amusing satire on the biblical relationship between the two characters. Perhaps one of the most amusing characters in the Sandman universe, Abel has been a mainstay in DC horror for 50 years. Now, in addition to this issue being a first appearance of an important recurring character, it also has, of course, a wicked cover by the man Neil Adams, and it's the first issue that the mystery format begins again in the title. Thus, of course, it should be 3 times the key, right? Well, I'm here to tell you that you can have this one in mid-grade pretty regularly for around $50 US or less.
Wow.
I got mine recently for $100 Canadian, which is around $70 US. Unfair, as Abel would say. Still, a pretty nice, solid, I would say 6.5 copy. Mid-grade, fine plus. The latest 50th Overstreet price breaks for this book show $54, $121, $268, and $450 US in the 6, 8, 9, and 9.2 grade splits. Yeah, so I'm here to tell you that these are great pickups to pick up right now, and you could do no wrong with picking up these Silver Age books.
That's for sure. Wow. Jose, I can't think of a better way to end our Halloween episode with those 3 gems.
Yeah, I think that as pre-code Golden Age horror books get further and further away from the budgets of most collectors, the market has finally started to notice of the late Silver Age and early Bronze Age of DC's horror titles.
Yeah.
With some of the finest artists of the era working on them, such as Neil Adams and Bernie Wrightson, it's no wonder. And I say it's about time. The confusing part of why it's taking so long for these to catch on, I just have no idea. The covers are generally and unsurprisingly very dark, black, and as such, they're nearly impossible to find in high-grade condition.
For sure, yeah.
So there is an opportunity for you when you see one of these in a VF or higher and it's a reasonably priced book, you pick it up.
That's for sure, yeah, that's great, yeah. That is absolutely spectacular, Jose. And again, another one I'll pick up for my collection when I find it at a decent price. Yeah.
Exactly, that's the main thing. Again, do not overpay. Wait for your copy. Like I said, hold out for a VF looking copy, pay a few extra bucks more. Again, my main message from my new book segment was don't waste your money on variants, chasing 3/4, half a dozen copies of the new flavor of the week. Okay, save your money up, and when you see a copy of these kind of books at a reasonable price and a relatively high enough grade, you snap on those. You get them now, because they will be worth it in 10-15 years down the road.
For sure. And again, horror genre, it's something that's not getting its respect, but again, yeah, like you just said, eventually the market's going to take notice.
Golden Ages.
These things are going to...
Yeah,
the
people...
Silver Age...
Silver Age and early Bronze Age, it hasn't come quite yet, but people are realizing that in the very higher grades. And when I generally speaking higher grades, I'm talking just VF, I'm talking 8.0 copies.
Or higher.
Or higher, like I said, they're tough to find. And they're tough to find at a reasonable price. So get on it, people, before they really get out of most people's budgets.
Yeah. Okay, well that's it. I hope you liked our latest Halloween episode. I hope you enjoy watching it as much as we enjoy making it. And we're going to see you next time. And what, like we've done in the last couple of years, we're going to leave you here with some footage that we recently shot at the Spirit Halloween store. And we love going to the store at least once every October to see all the really cool animatronics and Halloween props you can buy there. And while I'm there, I usually take some footage, and I thought I'd show it to you, and that's how we're going to end the episode. And finally, if you like what you saw, leave a comment, because we'll always respond. Sometimes it takes us a while, but we will always respond. And we will see you next time, and wishing you all a happy and scary Halloween.
Hoi hoi, happy collecting, and like Hill Street Blues, one of my favorite 80s shows, say, stay safe out there. Hoi hoi. Put our books in front of them.